Bro, Steve is a mean bastard in this show, dude. I loved it. Anytime you see a guy in a dapper suit with a high fade, you just know that man's up to no good.
I know. It was actually a lot of fun creating that look for him because there's a little more groomed than I like to be, as you can probably imagine. So walking around for a couple of months with that setup was a little confronting even for myself in the mirror. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I'm glad we got to do something kind of enjoyable with it, even if he is a bit of a nasty prick.
Yeah. That grooming was impeccable. I was like, man, it's so spot on. It was beautiful. Really, it was hard to hate him because of his grooming.
We go thank D the barber for that. He was the man responsible.
So, what differentiates Steve Horn from other villainous roles you've played before?
Interesting. I think Horn's a funny one. He's kind of polarizing because it's questionable whether, villain is an interesting word, right? It's like this series explores a lot of stuff rooted in domestic kind of conspiracy and kind of deep government plots to kind of control darker corners of certain things. And I think it's interesting with political stuff like that because I don't know if those individuals really feel like they're committing evil deeds or if it's just motivated by stuff to get ahead. And I think Horn sits in an interesting place. He's this hugely successful kind of billionaire kingpin who's got his finger in all kinds of pies and, invested in all kind of different industries from like fashion to pharmaceuticals. And we kind of catch up with him at a time where his bread and butter is all about exploring military trends and innovations. And look, I don't know what kind of, I'll try not to spoil too much, but obviously dealing with where the series goes pulls into question the motivations of the people in control of these sorts of things. But I don't know, he probably doesn't see himself as a villain. So I think for me, the fun part is trying to ground it in something that feels genuine and not, not too kind of villainous, but then, and trying to have fun with it and let the audience have fun with that too. Even if we don't walk away empathizing with that character, I always look at those kind of roles as an opportunity to allow people to enjoy it and almost surprise themselves.
Yeah, it makes sense. You can tell that the guy, even if he doesn't consider himself a villain, if he does, he doesn't seem to care. He's just like, whatever. I'm just going to take mine. That's all.
Get in front. Yeah.
Totally. So when something's adapted from a novel like this and you take on the role, do you find it helpful as an actor to read the book itself or like to get a better understanding of the character? Or do you find that what's in the actual script is really all you need?
I would say that's a case-by-case thing. However, and that's based on how loosely adapted things are. I've had the fortune of doing a couple things that have been, at least inspired by, literature, but then, adapted into film or TV. And definitely with this, it's of course helpful. You can't invest in something this kind of twisted and dense without getting familiar with Jack Carr's work on the page. Horn in the book is written a little different, probably comes off a little older. There's some stuff there that's like you grab onto as an actor and kind of want to pull in. And then, when TV or film is developed, often there's like a bit of poetic license taken and we have to pull away from certain stuff or gear it towards another angle in order for it to work better for that format. So yeah, equal parts really. It's not always going to be a straight transplant. But I'll always try and do my homework.
Yeah. I don't want to do any spoilers either, but there's this great scene between you and Sean Gunn in the show. Was it weird acting opposite Sean when he's not waddling around like the weasel the whole time?
Dude, it was so funny. It was a little weird the first day because I was like, what the is going on, man? And yes, Weasel was a vastly different character than what he plays in this series.
Yeah, I would say so.
But it was good to see him in a suit and speaking,
words.
Words. Exactly.
Yeah, I got to say, I'm not blowing smoke when I say this. It's going to sound like it, but it's not. You were hands down my favorite part of the original Suicide Squad. And then Boomer getting killed off so quick in the Suicide Squad was my least favorite part. It pissed me off so much. I
appreciate that.
Yeah. I've heard you say this before. A boomerang always comes back. Nobody stays dead in the comics. Would you be more interested in going toe to toe with the Flash, or after seeing what James Gunn has done now with Peacemaker, would you rather go the HBO Max series route?
Good question. I mean, I don't know. Look, the sort of TV streaming realm right now is really exciting. And I think exploring something like that in a longer format and giving it a little more space would be really cool. I kind of have some ideas around that, which I think would work for a character like Boomerang. Because he's so much fun, I think it'd be really cool to get into some backstory stuff. And the nature of how he falls into the DC world, I doubt wherever, particularly now, it's not like I doubt there's any plans for a standalone film. But yeah, man, I mean, that'd be cool. I look, he's one of those roles that I would love to just kind of be able to, do again and again. It's like so much fun and probably a little too easy for me in a way. But I think there's a tremendous potential for enjoyment with something like that. And we could really push the kind of boundaries of what's possible. So listen, just waiting on the call from Warner Brothers. I mean, if they want me to throw that jacket on again, I'll be more than happy to oblige.
Well, that's one of the few characters that, like, from the comic books that I never really cared about him in the comic books. And I just thought you brought him up to a whole other level. I mean, I really loved your take on the guy. So it made me want to see more of Boomerang. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
You've been a part of several franchises at this point. So, like, what's the one franchise that you would just love to be a part of the most, like, that you haven't had a chance to touch on yet?
Far out. I mean, that's a delicate question because I have my own kind of ideas around whether I should ever do another one. But I don't know, man. I mean, look, I got the opportunity to be part of two of my like favorite like 80s, 90s action kind of setups. So I kind of ticked some pretty big boxes there. And it would be, look, I think, who knows? I think I'm pretty sure my time with the Terminator stuff is done, but I would love to go back and like make another Die Hard movie. I don't know if that's going to be possible, if that's something they would ever touch again. But
yeah,
if things aligned and I was in a position that was interesting to those guys to kind of dig that back up, that'd be a real honor, I think. And I don't think that's something that's like, I think you can kind of keep tapping that well because of just what those, what that kind of style of movie is like. And I know we're in a time right now where comic book stuff is just, dominating so heavily, particularly at the box office. And I think that's awesome. But that old school kind of action setup is, it's never going to get old. And I think, if there's a time to kind of do something like that again, I'd really love to.
Yeah, well, you brought up Terminator and Die Hard, and you also got to do some scenes with Paul McCrane, and that dude is just a legend because of RoboCop. Like, did you talk to him at all about RoboCop? Was that something that you like? I would have fanboyed out on him the same way that I'm fanboying out on you right now.
Not really. Funnily enough, that was never one of my like major.
What? You didn't love RoboCop? Oh no! You just supported me so hard.
It's great. But bear in mind, I've never seen Indiana Jones, so you don't take anything from me. That's for sure.
You got to, if you watch RoboCop, dude, I'm telling you, you have to go back and watch the unrated version. Like, there's an unrated version that is, it's to this day, it's amazing. It's like the special effects and like the makeup effects and stuff that they pull off is incredible. You will come away loving RoboCop, I promise.
Okay, I will. I love that pissed you off. I got a few of those up my sleeve that are just like, things where people are like, what? How can you be an actor and like you don't care for?
Well, look, I wasn't gonna go that far. I wasn't gonna say how can you be an actor, but the fact that you love Die Hard,
it's like I was doing Chekhov and shit. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's fair. But the fact that you love Die Hard and Terminator and you don't love RoboCop, that's not clicking for me. It's not. I'm not understanding.
There's still room for me to grow.
There is, and I believe you can. And Jai, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me about this. You were
Thanks, brother.
fantastic in the show. I loved it so much, and I can't wait to. Hopefully, we talk again down the line, man.
It means a lot to me. Thanks, brother. Take care.
Thank you, buddy. First off, Constance, this is not a question, but the trailer for Lyle Lyle Crocodile dropped today, and it looks adorable. I'm so excited for that. Anyways, let's talk about the terminal list. I just wanted to say that real quick.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, it looks great. So guys, this question's for both of you. When something's adapted from a book series like this and you take the part, do you prefer to read the book itself to get a better understanding of your characters and the world? Or do you find that what's in the actual script is really all you need?
I mean, I think it depends on the project.
It really does. Yeah.
But, you know, I will say the book it was a great resource because Jack Carr really committed to backstories and all of these characters. And, you know, the TV writers made amazing scripts. And so to have both, I think, is like a tremendous gift for an actor. And then you sort of use the parts that serve you. And I think, you know, sometimes you don't use parts of the book because they change things in order to serve the story in a different format. And so I think, it just depends on what parts you're looking at of the story.
Yeah, I think it's great to, depending on the project, and it's also just to understand tone, the world, you know, the atmosphere that you're in. And, you know, a lot of the stuff you got to let go on the day because you got to be in the moment, and you got to be alive. But we were blessed to have some amazing technical advisors who really helped us along the way just to stay consistent with the book or that tone.
Yeah, well, in almost any adaptation, people are always saying like the book is better because there's more details and there's more backstory, et cetera. But, you know, Antoine specifically mentioned how you guys filmed this like an 8-hour movie. So does that make adapting your character easier because you have more time to play with the role? Or is it more daunting because you're essentially filming like 3 movies back to back?
I think it's easier because you really get to, not easy is not the right word, but it's more fulfilling because you really get to flesh out a character. And I think with a story like this, where there's so many fun twists and turns, it's kind of a great format because you could end each episode kind of on like a different surprise twist and it leaves you wanting more. So I think it really served the story. And as an actor, it really serves what we do in terms of just like having time to really make it a human with a full arc in their story.
Yeah. You know, when like you're reading a book, it's because it's not visual, you're seeing it in your head, right? Like you're imagining that character and what they're wearing or the world or what they're thinking. And because we do work in a visual medium, what I love about having that time is that you can live in between the lines. And so then the audience can really relate to that moment, that behavior of that character hearing something and taking a breath. Or rolling their eyes, and like the camera's not rushing. We're not rushing. So the audience is like, oh, it allows it to sit.
And it's not just visual, it's auditory, right? I mean, movies have music, they have sound.
Right.
These are all the things that I love books. I read tons of books. And I think to say, one's better than the other is weird because I think they're just different mediums. And, you know, it's like comparing ice cream to going fishing. They're just different mediums, you know, and I think, you know, the story was the same and how you tell it is just different. So hopefully people who enjoyed the book can also enjoy that.
I think they will. I think they will. Yeah. If you're a fan of the book, I mean, you're going to love the movie. And if you haven't read the book, you're going to love the movie. I think what the whole team has put together is pretty brilliant.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I really enjoyed the series. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, guys. Excited to talk to you. I really enjoyed the terminal list. First off, in almost any adaptation, people always say the book is better because there's more details, more backstory, et cetera, et cetera. But Antoine, you specifically mentioned how you guys filmed this like an 8-hour movie. So does that make adapting the material easier because you can fit more of the novel into it? Or is it more daunting because now you're essentially filming, 3 movies back to back?
Yeah, good question. And both answers, yes and no, right? Because it's daunting because it's like, don't screw that up because you got more room, more room. And then it's easier because you have time to do that, right? You have
Yeah.
room, and then you have to have the right writer, the right showrunner to come along to maintain that. And Dave did an amazing job. The whole team. We kept Jack deeply involved. Thank God he was able to, and with us on the set. So we didn't screw it up. And we were surrounded by a bunch of Navy SEALs who made sure we didn't screw it up. So yeah.
There's incentive. There's incentive there.
There's incentive. You better have explained yourself.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, I was raised on stuff like The Punisher and First Blood and Commando. And, the Terminal List feels inspired by stuff like that, but in a much more grounded way. So was the intention to make the Terminal List feel as realistically plausible as you could make it?
For sure.
100%. Yeah. I think, Jack, you start from the novel side, and then we'll answer the series side.
So those movies you just mentioned, those are very important parts of my childhood. Whether people maybe were watching sports and dreaming of playing in the NBA or whatever it might be, I wanted to one day serve my country in uniform, specifically in special operations, even more specifically as a SEAL. So I naturally gravitated to all those movies and to books by guys like Tom Clancy and Nelson DeMille and A.J. Quinnell and J.C. Pollock and Mark Olden, David Morrell, who wrote Rambo or First Blood back in 1972. And so all of that formed this foundation in order that allowed me to write a novel with all those things as inspiration, but at the same time, keeping it grounded in my academic study of warfare and my practical application of war in Iraq and Afghanistan. So all of those things, the storytelling, the academic study of warfare, and the practical application and experience all came together to create the book. And then these guys took it to the next level. And more often than not, you're right, the author's like, Hollywood screwed it up. That's what you hear most from authors in the industry. Not the case here. And that is because of this team and because of the trust that we all had right from the beginning that continues to this day. And they built it into something that I could not be more proud of.
Awesome. Well, without getting into spoilers, is there hope to do a second season? And if so, does that mean that adapting True Believer would be next?
Yes.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. But thank you for bringing that up. We're really lucky. Jack is writing at an incredibly fast pace, a novel per year. It's a little faster than we can make the shows. So he's maybe too far out. Like, just take a little break, I'd say.
I don't know what you're going to
think. But we're really lucky. And I encourage any fans who love season 1 to pick up True Believer. It's an incredible read, and it's a great blueprint for season 2.
Even as an action star, Chris Pratt plays a lot of happy-go-lucky, wisecracking characters. So James Reece is a real departure from that. What made you guys feel confident that Chris could go in and nail a role like this?
Well, I worked with Chris, so I already knew what he had, but I want Jack to explain his version of Chris.
Yes. Well, he's the only person I ever thought of playing James Reece. And that's because at the time I started typing away during my last year in the military, he'd only really done Parks and Rec, and then he was a SEAL operator in Zero Dark 30. So I saw the transition there. And I thought, this is someone who's likable on and off screen. He seems like a genuinely good human being. And then I also thought of someone who needs to take a risk. As things I continued to type away, he started to do things like Guardians of the Galaxy and Jurassic World and Avengers. And I thought, this guy is someone who needs to take a risk as an actor, like Tom Hanks did back in the 80s, doing all comedy and then taking a risk with Philadelphia in the early 90s, and then being able to do whatever he wanted from then on out. So there was no one other than Chris Pratt who I ever envisioned portraying James Reece on screen.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk with me. I really appreciate it, and I enjoy the series. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, I'm so excited to talk to you both. I've been big fans of you for a long time. Congratulations on the Terminal List. When something's adapted from a book series like this and you take the role on, do you dive into the series and read the books to get a better understanding of your characters, or do you find what's in the actual script is all you need?
I personally like to read the script at hand because that's what people are going to see and that's the information that they have. So I do that always. And then I will read the book. And maybe I'll read the book at the beginning. This particular show, I knew that the script was really what I needed to focus on. So I read it about halfway through.
Yeah, what Gene said, like the scripts are more important. Like that's what we're going to be performing. I read the book first because I didn't have access to the scripts initially. but it was good to see for me just to see the tone. But the book is going to always be different than the scripts. As Chris would say, you know, the scripts, you put your Hollywood hot sauce on it, and it's gonna, you know, it's gonna differentiate a little bit. But
Always.
yeah.
Always.
Yeah, well, what I like about this though is because you have this 8-episode arc. I mean, you can get a lot more of the novel in there, and so in almost any adaptation, you know, people are always saying that the book is better because there's more details, more backstory. But you know, Antoine specifically mentioned how you guys filmed this like an 8-hour movie versus a TV show. So does that make adapting your character easier because you have more time to play with, or is it more daunting because now you're essentially filming 3 movies back to back?
I didn't really look at it that way. I just look, you know, this long form storytelling, you know, you just take it episode by episode. It's so great for the audience to be able to dive a little deeper. So I don't really look at it that way. LaMonica?
Yeah, the same. Like we showed up and it was, it didn't feel like, oh, this is, I don't know. It was, yeah, it felt great to be on set. I didn't really see a difference from, oh, this is not a television show or, oh, this is a film. I think with Antoine and Chris doing it, it was a great set to be on. And, you know,
I think of anything because of this long form storytelling. It's you know, and I've been on a couple of projects in years past where it's a project that goes way beyond what was the allotted time or whatnot. But I think more than anything, you just have to sustain the energy over months at a time. And you have to really be on your toes as far as where you are in the story,
right?
To be able to make sure that that's all clear.
Well, before I even watched the Terminal List, I didn't know that there's like a whole series of James Reece books. I didn't know that. I don't know that a lot of people know that. So without getting into spoilers, hypothetically speaking, if your character does not perish and Amazon does another season to adapt another one of the books from the series, would you guys be interested in coming back for that?
100% with this team of people, like it's gold. As an actor, this is what you hold on to. You know, these are the people that you want to be with. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.